Hi, I'm Rich Booker, and welcome to The Rich Booker Show, real local news and political talk on MLTV Mainline Network. First, my political perspective. This past week, Radnor enters a new era as we begin our search for a new township manager. Radnor faces new challenges in this new decade of the Roaring Twenties, as the economic future of the country seems bright. In Radnor, we continue to search for ways to keep our Wayne competitive as a business destination while balancing the needs of our residential communities. Refurbishment of the clear-cut area at the I-476 interchange and the associated Radnor Gateway has been an area of great public scrutiny recently. I will lead an effort to improve Radnor's gateways for both pedestrian and vehicular traffic in the future. In addition, we continue to examine the issue of a potential sale of the Radnor sanitary sewer system. I'm opposed to such action as it will only cost our taxpayers more money than it does today. New for-profit ownership would exact a guaranteed rate of return from our residents and leave them helpless against a monopoly utility company. We'll also be looking to November for a critical election where we will again test the resolve of the Republican Party to re-elect the president and to potentially retake the U.S. House of Representatives. As a populist, I'm certain that the voting public will make it clear that they want to continue our growing economy, low unemployment, low regulation, family-friendly government by re-electing President Trump. A strong national economy bolsters our Radnor community and the main line in general. And that's my political perspective for February 21, 2020. Today, I have with me on The Rich Booker Show a special guest, Ms. Dasha Pruett, candidate for Congress for the fighting 5th District of Pennsylvania for the U.S. House. And with her, we have her campaign manager and husband, Rich Pruett, as well. So welcome to the show, and thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Very good. So, again, Dasha is running for the 5th U.S. House District against we won't even say the opponent, who's the current sitting U.S. House member. And the 5th District of Pennsylvania really encompasses all of Delaware County, as well as a portion of Lower Merion and
South Philadelphia.
South Philadelphia. Yeah. And actually, there's a little bit of Chester County at the very bottom, just like, one neighborhood.
Yeah. I think there's 3 houses.
3 houses, right. So it's like one small area. So just a little bit before we start, Dasha and Rich live in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania. And this is really your first foray into the political realm at this level, at least, I guess. So tell us, Dasha, tell us about yourself and how you got interested in national politics, and Rich, how you feel about it. So just let us know.
Well, I'm a legal Russian immigrant. I came here from United Soviet Socialist Republic, which is USSR,
yeah,
which is Russia. So I grew up under communism, socialism. They're identical. And we immigrated here as political dissidents because of persecution that goes on. My father was actually sent to Siberia twice because KGB did not like his artwork. So in Russia, there is no thing such as a free speech. So I never thought about running in politics. The only political thing I've ever done was I was a senator of my senior high school class, but that was about it.
Where was that high school?
Northeast High School.
Northeast.
Yep. But it's just watching what's going on. Rich actually started this group when President Trump came down the escalator. It was PA Suburbs supports President Trump.
Philly.
Yeah,
county.
Philly, right.
Right.
And when he started it, I actually kind of looked at him and I said, sweet kid, I love you, but you're probably going to have about 10 members. We're at about 6,600 members. Wow. So, and through that, we started doing events, just like meet and greets for people to get to know one another. And we started bringing speakers in. During that time, we were trying to get Lou Barletta on the ticket. and other people, we were supporting them and kind of giving them a platform. So when during that time, there was big conversation about socialism. And at first, I never thought it was actually get traction like it does. So I would go around and educate people about socialism and communism, what it was like to live and grow up under that. So it kind of started from that. And then as this movement is starting with Bernie and Warren and many others.
And the squad.
Giving away everything for free, it kind of made me decide that I wanted to throw my hat in the ring, because we were already watching exactly how Russia became a communist, socialist country. We're losing our freedom of speech. People, if somebody doesn't believe what you're saying, they can attack you, they can smear you, they can do everything. The war against our Second Amendment, that's how it starts. They disarm you, and then, they take away everything else. This free stuff, it sounds fantastic. I would like to have a free mortgage, and I'd like to have a free car, and I'm sure my daughter would love to have a pony, but it doesn't work that way.
Right.
And yes, healthcare was free in Russia, but if you did not show up with a carton of cigarettes, a bottle of vodka, box of chocolates, and some dollars, you would not be seen.
Right. So really, it was just in 2019 when you really decided that you were going to really take this on and run for Congress.
Yes, we kind of started toying with it in May, and then we took our time to get through our local elections in November. So we had an exploratory committee. I just wanted to know what I was getting myself into. I'm still trying to figure that out. But I just believe in fighting for this country. I love this country. I am so honored and grateful to live in this country and to be a citizen, and to have opportunities for myself and my children. And it just to see what's happening now. We have to start fighting, or we're going to lose it.
That's so great. That really is the epitome of what politics is about. It's what I do, and it's really, you see the need and you really decide to step up. So I commend you, and I commend you, Rich, for working with this and really being, part of it. And so it's really, really commendable. And you were about 10 years old, I think, when you came over,
Yeah.
when you emigrated.
Yeah.
So you had enough, you really had a sense of what it was like in the So I know that from some of your materials that you talk about that as a U.S. congressman, that you were going to promote capitalism over socialism. So what does that mean to you, and can you explain a little bit about that?
I just think government is overreaching into our lives, just in general. They're trying to take away small businesses. They're by, overtaxing. There are so many regulations to have, businesses to run from home. They tie your hands as much as they can. In Russia, there was no small business. The government owned everything. It's kind of funny. I have plates from Soviet Russia that we brought, and on each plate it says how much it was, and it's all USSR. Everything was stamped because the government owned everything.
Right.
So we need to start promoting businesses. We need to start fighting for our communities. And there's so many regulations that are coming in. Yes, should we be more EPA friendly? Yes, but I think we're going about it a very wrong way.
Right.
Instead of putting handcuffs on people, there's other ways we can do things.
Right.
If we can put a robot on Mars, I think we can figure out how to use effective paint, to do lines on the roads.
I think maybe that is harder, but Rich is a small businessman. You're a photographer. You have a photography business, and in addition to being campaign manager and chief of this campaign, as a small business, you understand the taxes, the reporting, and the regulations from safety and L&I inspections, licensing. All that really makes it difficult to run a business, I guess.
It's very interesting in my category, my industry as a photographer. And I'm not going to go into this too much, but frankly, we needed a little bit more regulation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the exact opposite problem that I have. You just look at, let's talk wedding photography. Any monkey with a camera now says that they're a wedding photographer. And it is completely...
Not to disparage anybody in that.
Right. It's completely blown the industry away.
Okay.
You know, I have 30 years experience doing this stuff, and actually Jamie Santora, one of our state reps, 2 years ago was trying to get this through the House, and they did not do it. So I'm probably not the best small business guy to ask that.
Well, but I mean, you're talking about regulating competitive and a certain level of performance. But
Yeah.
as far as running the business,
Yeah, sure.
all the tax, all
that
the
stuff,
paperwork,
right, it's
the
crazy.
licenses,
It's crazy.
and you know, corporation, you have to decide your entities, and then local taxes, et cetera.
Right.
And relieving that kind of regulation, once you get to be a known person and you weed out the people who are the pretenders,
Right.
then
That's
really
right.
to promote that business and to really seek your piece of the American dream. So that's
Yeah.
And you know what? We're getting worse at it than better. So now, I just learned a few weeks ago that our new DA just created a new crime unit. It's going to be environmental crime unit.
wow.
So who's going to be making the laws? Who's going to be making the rules?
You know who it is? It's unelected bureaucrats. These environmental regulators are the ones that make the
So they're
laws,
going-
and they're going to prosecute people based on
Right.
unelected administrative bureaucrats.
So it's going to
and
be
what they say is
anybody
what's
with
legal.
a small business, which is HVAC guys, builder, anybody with a gas station,
Yep.
anybody with an auto repair shop.
Absolutely.
Anybody that does anything, they're going to create laws, and that's how they're going to start putting people out of business.
Absolutely.
And now we have, Marcus Hook is one of the biggest things that's keeping Delaware County together right now, besides Boeing, but
Relative to jobs.
relative to jobs,
Big,
exactly.
big employers in Marcus
Right,
Hook, with
right.
Sunoco
And they're trying
the
to show,
docks.
they're already been going
Access
after
Energy
them.
Transfer, I think. Energy
Yeah.
Transfer. Yeah.
So, they're going after them already as
Yes.
well. So
Yes, they are.
they're going to put them out of business. So that's going to be thousands upon thousands of jobs. So that's not how it's supposed to work. This country was not built on that. This country was built on the American dream, and our ancestors, or for me, it's myself, came to this country because they knew they were going to be able to,
Have
grow
an
something.
opportunity.
Right.
And what we guarantee in America is you're guaranteed the fruits of your own labor
Right.
and nothing else.
Right.
There's
No.
and that's what it's built on: rugged individualism and a guarantee that what you work for and earn, you'll get to keep.
And
Right.
entrepreneurialism.
And that's the entrepreneurial spirit, and that's exactly right. And so I agree with you 100%. Now, you indicated that you mentioned the Green New Deal. We hear a lot about that, and some of the more controversial, even for the Democrats in Congress, talk about this. And we have something similar in Radnor. We have the Ready for 100 group, which is a smaller group. But you say that you believe that will require the government to control ownership of cars, home ownership, and control the national means of production, and is therefore socialism. Can you explain that or expound on that a little bit?
So government is going to be growing, and they're going to be reaching into every aspect of our lives, which frankly they're already doing. So cars, it's going to be, they're proposing that every car is going to be electric car. That's not feasible.
I call them, they're really not electric, they're battery powered.
Right.
Right. So it's not electric. It's battery powered. You have a battery. But anyway, go ahead.
But the ironic thing, when in California, when they had that power outage for several days, one of the things that did not work were those battery powered cars.
That's right.
Because people.
It's not going anywhere, is it?
So where are you going to get the power to charge them? And the other thing that people don't realize is once those batteries go, there's no way of getting rid of them.
You got to dispose. It's hazardous waste.
Exactly.
And a lot of these cars, their whole chassis is that battery. So it's a giant battery to dispose of. It's in 8 and 10 years, each one of these will need to replace the battery, be a huge disposal issue, and it will be an environmental issue. Not to mention that even to charge up the cars in Pennsylvania, especially, they're largely powered by coal-fired plants.
Yeah.
So you're polluting the air to get a battery-powered car to power into it. But there's also problems with the cars as far as range, et cetera.
Well, they're also, I know there's going to be an argument. Well, you could do solar panels on your house and you can have solar panel. You know what? I have these lights outside that's
Yeah,
supposed to,
I do
first
too.
of all, they don't work.
No.
They stop working within like a few weeks, and they don't power anything. So it's just the government's going to get into absolutely everything. They're already telling us what we can eat, how many cheeseburgers we can have,
What kind of light bulbs we can use?
what kind of exactly, if we can have soda, if I can use a straw, and we can go on and on and on and on. That's not, again, this country was not built on that. This country was built
It's
on
not freedom of choice.
right, exactly. I was going to say free will. And we all have that. If somebody wants to smoke, I would object. I don't want them blowing smoke in my face, but it's their
Choice.
choice, exactly.
Right.
And I think the government is constantly going to be,
In the way.
in the way, and they're going to start taking all of our rights away until we're going to have nothing.
Absolutely, 100%. So another area that kind of jumping around a little bit, but a lot of these same kind of topics touching. So some of your the people in Congress who you're running against, or at least in Congress, talk about a free college or forgiving college loans or making college tuition for state schools free. But what does that say to all the people who have saved and really scrimped and saved and took on the personal responsibility to pay for their children's colleges? What does that say to them if we would draw a line and say it's free from now on?
You know what? My problem with the whole thing is, besides that, where is the money going to come from? But I have a couple of issues with that. First of all, why don't the colleges themselves, they're country clubs anymore. It's not a college.
Absolutely, they're resorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Look at
that's
Villanova.
that's not how it was when we went, and our loan rates were also, I think mine was like 1.7% or something like that. But the other thing is 70s, 80s, somewhere around there, labor became a very dirty world. If you are a laborer and if you didn't go to college, you were looked down upon. Like you did not have a brain, you did not have anything. And so everybody kind of had to go to college, whether you wanted to or not. And what are you going to do with a liberal arts degree? There's certain things that really you don't need to have a degree for.
I guess you could be a professor, really. That's what you can do. Right?
Something like that.
Right.
And also college, there's no reason why college should start out at 4 years. I mean, you basically, the first 2 years, you're relearning what you just learned. And so you can test them out. You can test out of those things and just, make it 2 years. There's so many different solutions to this, but nobody's thinking about that. They're thinking more like, oh, we're just going to give it for free. Again, and it's free will. Not everybody should go to college. I think we should start bringing back apprenticeships and bringing back things in high school, vocational, eighth grade to 10th grade. Kids can start learning different skill sets and going into something like that.
Like plumbing. The plumbing, the electricians, and carpentry, and
they can't find workers right now.
Right, there's a shortage.
So it's but there's plenty of baristas who are $10,000 in debt. Not that there's wrong anything with baristas, but if you go to school and you come out with that, and I think the statistic, it's only 30% of college students practice in the field that they have their degree from.
Right.
So what's going on with the other 70?
Some of them are baristas. Some of them are doing different business. Some of them go into a completely different. Absolutely the case. And I would just take one issue. I think, and I personally never look down on someone who works for a living as a laborer or as any. I mean, honest work is, I think, should be exalted and is respected, and I do, and I think most people understand that. Not, you're right. What we've seen is this pressure that everyone has to go to college, and not everyone needs to go to college, if especially if they don't have an interest in doing it, and why should they take $100,000 in loans to follow that? If they don't really have an interest in it. So
Like
I
my
agree
degree
with
is in fashion design. Ask me last time I made something. I mean, I think it was in college, but you know, it's like it. Luckily, I did not come out with any debt, but still, you know, it's a problem.
Right.
I think most of these colleges are going to go away. Within 20 years, I see colleges being 1/10 of what they are now. They're unaffordable.
They are unaffordable.
They're
but
unaffordable. You look
They
at
have
Villanova.
huge endowments, though. They have a lot of money in the endowments, so we'll see.
But I think a lot of these kids are learning what she's preaching.
I think you could be right. You could be right on that.
We're starting to see those numbers drop.
I wanted to touch back a little bit more on your on some of your positions as far as federal issues. So I know you're a proponent of legal immigration, and that you support ICE and using technology to reduce illegal immigration. So how does your position contrast with your opponent, and what do you think the benefits of limiting and enforcing our immigration laws will have on the country?
It seems like my opponent, that's her biggest concern, is illegal immigrants. She been to the Berks County Detention Center more than she's been in through her own neighborhoods. So, I think it's a problem. Obviously, I believe in immigration.
And
Legal
you're
immigration.
just a person who participated in it.
Right, and we have real good laws on the books. It just nobody is using them. There's a lot of people who've been waiting in line, who came here legally. You know, they started the process in their home country. They came here. They're got their green card. Now they're waiting for their citizenship, and now we have all these illegal immigrants are getting in front of the line, which is just it's crazy to me.
So you're not for a path to citizenship for illegal aliens?
No. You know what? For me, like, I think with some of the DACA kids that been here, if they served in the military, if they defended this country, if they, kind of show that that's their love for this country, I think there should be some kind of
So that's very specific,
Deal for
and
them.
that's nuanced. So if a person was brought to the United States illegally and they were underage at the time, and you identify that group, and then if that group serves in the military,
Right.
you might provide some
or like
path to citizenship in those cases.
or in like law enforcement or in those type of
Right.
fields.
In other words, to really give something back and to and through if they're brought as minors as no fault of their own, that makes sense.
See, my problem also with define minors. If you're 17 and 3/4, you're technically a minor.
Well, and even today, a lot of these DACA people are in their mid and upper 30s.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean,
so some of them, at least some of them.
There
so,
should be some kind of an age gap.
There is. It's overly broad, but I like your position. It's a very nuanced and specific group that provides an opportunity. And that actually makes sense. Also, I see that you are part of the group that really is defenders of the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. So, and you recognize that the right to people to defend themselves and hunting, and especially in Pennsylvania, is very important. So why is this issue meaningful to you? And you touched on it before, but as someone who came from a country where they don't allow people to own firearms,
Exactly.
why is that
Unless you're KGB.
why is that an important civil right for all of us?
First of all, I think because number one thing, it's because it's part of our Constitution.
Absolutely.
And destroying our Constitution, it would be the same as destroying 10 Commandments. That's the foundation of this country. So let's just start with that. And again, in Soviet Russia, the first thing they did, or actually, if you look at other countries where communism, socialism, has taken over, the first thing they do is they disarm you.
Right.
So you can't defend yourself. And again, that's not what this country is built on. You know, we have to stand up for our rights. I think red flag laws are very dangerous because it's, again, same principle as they did in Russia when
It's potential for abuse. Anybody can call a red flag and say, "Oh, this person,"
It could
and
be
it could be completely unfounded.
disgruntled, you know, ex-spouse. It could be your neighbor who you are, you know, in a
Have an argument over a fence or something.
Exactly.
And they could call, yeah.
and it's just dangerous. And you know, in with our HIPAA laws and our also patient and doctor privilege laws, the doctor can't report the patient. But my next door neighbor who is annoyed with me because, you know, I don't know, parked on their lawn or well, partially on their lawn or whatever it could be, or I didn't trim my bushes the way they like them, they can report me.
Right.
So it's a slippery slope. And our problem is not guns. Our problem is mental health. And until we start addressing that, you can use anything as a weapon.
Absolutely.
The last several weeks,
Pressure cooker.
right. A pressure cooker. There've been an uptick in machete incidences.
Wow.
You know, so if somebody is unhinged, they will figure out a way to hurt somebody. You know, plowing them down crowds with a car.
Right.
You know, it's
But depriving everyone of a civil right is not the answer to solve that
Exactly.
kind of thing. So we're coming to the end here, and just you know, one of the other things I wanted to touch on is your work and your interest in solving and addressing the opioid epidemic that we see, and in around this area and others. So what do you think that the federal government can do to help out with solving the opioid crisis?
I think there need to be more support. Instead of putting those safe injection sites, they should be putting more treatment centers. They should have treatments treated like AA. You know, you have Al-Anon for the family members so they know what to expect. The biggest problem with opiate is, you know, when people are trying to get off it, it's when they start to go through withdrawals, which are worse, and that keeps them kind of going. If you educate the family members that this is what they're going to be facing and giving them support, and also dealing with how did this problem really start? You know, is there a mental issue behind it? Is there some kind of crisis behind it? It's the same thing as alcoholism. You know, people don't drink themselves, you know, to death because, you know, they have a happy life. There's usually something underlying with that.
Right.
And we have to start getting those drugs off the street.
Absolutely.
You know, even with the Narcan, we have a friend who's a firefighter. He said sometimes he goes to the same house multiple times a day.
That's a problem with it. You can save them, and then they'll be straight back on it. Well, anyway, I think that's about all the time we have for today. Thanks very much to Dasha Pruett and her husband, Rich, her husband and campaign manager.
Yeah.
I really thank you for
call
your
me Steve
service.
Bannon.
And I really thank you for what you're doing, and I think you have some great positions. So this has been the Rich Booker Show, real local news and political talk on MLTV Mainline Network. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.